Good evening, everyone, and welcome to EducationQuest live stream, How to FAFSA Part 1 Prep. My name is Reagan Anson, and I'm here with Senior College Planning Specialist Jackie Butler, who is going to share all of the best tips and tricks to get ready to file the FAFSA. Tonight, we are going to give away a coffee mug and a water tumbler. So just indicate what you'd prefer in the comments if you want to be entered into the drawing. We'll do a random drawing following tonight's presentation, and then we'll reach out via email to get your contact details. So also be sure to post questions in the comments as we go. Don't want you to forget anything, and we will make some time to answer them following our more formal presentation. So with that, Jackie, are you ready? Let's dig in. We've got a lot to talk about. Big changes this year on the FAFSA. So wondering if you can provide an overview of the key changes or updates for the 24-25 FAFSA this year compared to previous years.
Oh, I sure will. So the Department of Education has made some significant changes to the upcoming FAFSA. I'm going to cover three of the major ones right now. So first, in order to complete the FAFSA, the student and at least one parent must create an FSA ID, also called a student aid account. So two different names, same thing. You set up that account by going, or you create that account by going to studentaid.gov. We're going to put that studentaid.gov link into the chat now so that you have access to that. An FSA ID is needed to log into the FAFSA to populate some of the required tax information. It's used to sign and submit the application, among other things. So it's a very important piece of the FAFSA process. So the change with that is concerning both the student and parent. They need to create that at least 3 days prior to filling out the FAFSA. And that's to allow the Social Security Administration to verify their information. So it's really important that they get that filled out early. The second change is if your family owns a business or farming operation, the net worth of that operation will now need to be reported on the FAFSA form. And then finally, the FAFSA calculation will no longer consider how many children are in college at the same time. So it will still ask how many students are enrolled at least part-time during, or will be enrolled at least part-time during the 24-25 academic year, but that number will no longer factor into the results of the FAFSA.
So these are pretty significant changes. I know, the thing that people can do now, like we were saying, go ahead and get that FSA ID, because there's nothing more frustrating when you're ready to do something, ready to file a form, and there's one piece you're missing, and then you got to wait 3 days. So go ahead and get that done right now, folks. Jackie, what's the recommended timeline for students and families to prepare for and complete the FAFSA for 2024-25?
Okay, so as of today, the 24-25 FAFSA is set to open by December 31st. Once it is available, you want to complete it as soon as possible. If you sign up for Countdown to College, which is our EducationQuest weekly email newsletter, it contains all of the latest details on the FAFSA, as well as other important deadlines, scholarship information, etc. It's free to sign up for, and we do not sell or distribute your contact information in any way. We're putting a link in the chat right now to our website, educationquest.org, and then you'll simply scroll to the bottom of our homepage to get signed up for Countdown to College. In the meantime, again, go ahead and create those FSA IDs now, as early as tonight. Write them down, keep them in a secure place, because you'll use them each year that you complete the FAFSA. Now, remember, in order to qualify or be offered federal financial aid, you'll need to file the FAFSA each year that the student plans to be in college. Students, when you're creating the FSA ID, please do not use your school email address. You'll need to use a personal email, because once you graduate, you will no longer have access to your school email address. The other thing I want to point out is any parents out there who already have an FSA ID. So perhaps parents in the last several years has gone to college and applied for financial aid, or maybe they've had another student, a child that has completed the FAFSA. If you already have that FSA ID, you will use that same existing account for each of your students' FAFSAs. So parents, you will only need one FSA ID, but each of your students will need to create their own FSA ID.
Right. That's, we usually do this presentation a little earlier in the year, Jackie. Usually, the FAFSA normally opens in October, but because of all the changes that the federal government's doing to the form, it's been delayed. And so, we still don't have an exact date of when it will open, but we know it will open sometime before December 31st. So the best way to be on top of it, we're going to send out an email to our contacts as soon as we know that date so that they can go ahead and get started. So do sign up for Countdown to College. Follow us on social. We'll be blanketing information as much as possible, right, so everybody is prepared. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of accurate and timely submission of the FAFSA and how it relates to financial aid eligibility and other deadlines?
Sure. So some types of financial aid are awarded on a first come, first served basis. So it is in the student's best interest to get the FAFSA completed as soon as possible to ensure that they're being offered the best financial aid package that they qualify for. The results of the FAFSA are also used for some need-based scholarships. So be mindful of those scholarship deadlines and file the FAFSA well in advance of those deadlines. And then some colleges, not all, but some colleges in the state of Nebraska offer what's called a tuition assistance program, which require the FAFSA to be submitted by a particular date. So I'll give you the three tuition assistance programs in the state of Nebraska. The Nebraska Promise, you may have heard of already, is offered through the university system schools. So that would be UNL, UNK, UNO, UNMC, and Nebraska Curtis. So these are undergraduate. The tuition assistance program is an undergraduate program. So the deadline for the Nebraska Promise to have your FAFSA submitted to the college is May 1st. The Nebraska State College Tuition Guarantee Program is offered by Wayne, Chadron, and Peru State Colleges, and they have a deadline of April 1st. And then the last one is Access NWU, which is offered through Nebraska Wesleyan University, and that deadline will be August 1st. We're going to put a link in the chat now that will take you to our tuition assistance handout, which has the application and eligibility requirements and all of the information that you probably need. Students must qualify financially. So not everybody will be eligible for these programs, but students must qualify financially to receive the assistance. So again, getting the FAFSA filed as soon as possible is really important.
Absolutely. And those are such great programs that Nebraskans have access to. So, as families, sit down to start this process of getting their application together, what documents and other information are they going to need to have on hand that they can go ahead and gather in advance?
So for a complete list of required documents, refer to our FAFSA checklist, which is on our FAFSA tools page. We will be putting a link again in the chat for the FAFSA tools page. On that page, you'll find a variety of resources. Keep in mind, though, that some of the information on that page right now is for the 23-24 academic year, which we're in currently. The 24-25 FAFSA information will be updated as soon as we receive further direction from the U.S. Department of Education. Just a handful, I'll go through some of the things just to highlight. First, the 2022 federal income tax return and all corresponding schedules will be needed. So you cannot use the 21 taxes. You cannot use 23. So parents don't sit and wait until you filed the 23 tax return. to complete the FAFSA because you must use 2022's federal tax return. If the student filed as well in 2022 or has a W-2, you will need to have that information in front of you. You'll also need to report current checking and savings account balances as of the day you're completing the FAFSA. Also, the current value of your investments. So stocks, bonds, CDs, mutual funds, money markets, things like that. If you have a 529 college savings plan, just report the value of the account for the student completing the FAFSA. So that's a change this year as well. We used to have to report all 529s for all of your children. Now it is just for the student completing the FAFSA. Also, if you own a second residence, a rental home, let's say a cabin at the lake or something like that, you'll need to report the value minus any debt against it. You do not have to report retirement accounts. So those would be 401k, IRA, or annuities. And you do not have to report the value of your primary residence. Again, the net worth of your business and or farm will need to be reported. And then child support received from the last completed calendar year. So if you're lucky enough and there's time and you file the FAFSA in December, the last completed year would be 2022 for child support received. If you don't file until January 1st or after, then you will report child support received for 2023. I know that seems a little confusing. That is on our FAFSA checklist. And if you have questions about that, certainly give us a call. But this, again, child support received in this situation will be for all children in the household, not just the college student you're filling the FAFSA out for.
There's a lot of information this thing requires, so it's important to go ahead and get started gathering all of those items. So as we're talking about a little bit about families and parents, there are a lot of unique family situations in the world. And so which parent or parents will be providing information on the FAFSA? Can you speak to that?
Sure. So yeah, you're correct. There are a lot of unique situations. We've seen a lot, but here are a few of the most common, I think, that are out there. If parents are married and file taxes jointly, it's pretty simple. Only one parent will need to create an FSA ID. It certainly won't hurt if both parents create one for each parent, but they certainly only have to have one FSA ID. If parents are separated or divorced, it will be the parent who contributed the most financial support to the student in the past 12 months. That's who will report their information on the FAFSA. So it does not matter who claims the student on their tax return for 2022. It is the parent who contributed the most financial support to the student in the past 12 months. That parent will need to create an FSA ID. Also, if that parent is now remarried, they will need to report that step parent or new spouse's information as well. The third situation we see, if both biological parents live together, but were just never married, both will need to report their information on the FAFSA, and both will need to create an FSA ID. And then lastly, in cases where two parents are required to report their information on the FAFSA, but perhaps their 2022 tax filing status is something other than married filing joint. So maybe one parent filed head of household and one filed single for whatever reason, or they file married filing separately. Then both parents will need to create an FSA ID. If you have questions about your specific situation, please give us a call and we can certainly walk you through it.
Absolutely. That's why we're here. And those services are free. So just pick up the phone. So speaking of resources, we have a lot of resources and tools available to help students and families complete their FAFSAs. You want to speak to those, Jackie?
Mm-hmm. So again, we have several resources on our FAFSA tools page. But for the most updated information, again, sign up for our Countdown to College weekly email. you'll go to educationquest.org, scan to the bottom and click that. We did put that link into our chat box there tonight. So there's a lot of great information and a lot of timely information on that Countdown to College email. You can also schedule an appointment with our college planning specialists at EducationQuest for help filling out the FAFSA, or give us a call for any questions you may have. The best part is that we're a free service and the FAFSA form is free to fill out. But watch Countdown to College for when we will open up or begin scheduling appointments.
Absolutely. You'll be the first to know. So get signed up right now. Are you up for taking some audience questions?
I would love to.
So no surprise here, Jackie. The first question being, and we're in Nebraska. So how do I calculate the net worth of my business or family farm?
That's a great question. And we knew we would get this question eventually. So in some situations, your banker or accountant may have that figure for you. But in general, ask yourself, what is your business or farm worth if you were to sell it? And then subtract any related debt against it. So for a business, you're including, buildings, any land, any equipment, any inventory, things like that. For a farming operation, we're looking at things like land, equipment, livestock, grains and storage, any outbuildings. And then again, any related debt against that, you will subtract from that amount.
That's great.
So, and the other thing I do want to mention, Reagan, is we are going to cover this more in depth in our next live stream. Right now, that is scheduled for December 6th at 7:00. So that gets more into the actual FAFSA form itself.
Absolutely. So be sure to tune in. We'll get into the nitty gritty there. We just had another question come in, Jackie. So what factors into financial support for divorced parents? I assume those factors are sort of the same as for non-divorced parents, but I'll let you speak to that.
So if I'm hearing that right, or understanding that correctly, they want to know how they determine who has provided the most financial support. So you're looking at things like who makes the student's car payment, who is the student receiving their medical insurance under, who does the student live with, and maybe perhaps that parent is providing their food and all of their toiletries and things like that. So, start looking at those things to determine and writing down numbers to kind of help you sort that out.
Yeah, that can be a pretty big list. Medical expenses, all those things factor in. Another question that just came in: do we include a student in medical school in the number of kids in school?
Another great question. You do not. A student who is in medical school is considered a professional student. So anyone who has received a bachelor's degree and is going on for a master's, a doctorate, any professional school, those students at that point are considered independent students. And so parents, if you're filling out a FAFSA for a younger student, an undergraduate, you will not count that independent student in your household size, nor will you count them in the number in college.
I learned something new from you all the time, Jackie. I didn't know that either. So good to know. Thank you. Another question we've got is, I'm planning to attend a community college in January. Which FAFSA should I file?
Okay, so again, I'm assuming they're talking about this coming January in just a couple months. So that would be the spring semester of the 23-24 FAFSA filing season, this current filing season. So that 23-24 FAFSA form is available right now. It has been available since last October, actually, a year ago. You can schedule an appointment with EducationQuest if you'd like to go to educationquest.org to schedule that, or you can give the office nearest you a call and we can schedule an appointment for you. So again, that would be for 23-24 FAFSAs, any student going this past fall or this coming spring.
Right. That's great. Speaking of appointments, when can I make an appointment for the 24-25 FAFSA. Or we're trying not to confuse people, but yeah. So you have a student going to college in the fall, and you want to make an appointment. When should they do that, Jackie?
Right. So our first appointments we're scheduling will be in January. But we'll allow families to set up appointments at some point in November. I had mentioned earlier, if you follow us on Countdown to College, we'll be letting you know when we begin taking appointments. If you're receiving, and you'll be the first to know, of course. So, just give us a call. Follow us on Countdown to College. We'll be letting you know that information as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, you can get all the inside scoop. So thank you, Jackie. And if we didn't get to your question tonight, just give a call to any of our offices. That's what we do. We take questions all day, every day. And all of our contact information is at educationquest.org on our website. And again, all of our services and advice is free. I do want to announce we do have winners for our coffee mug and water bottle. We're having a little trouble being able to post in the chat tonight. So I'm just going to announce them here and hope that they go ahead and email us at info@educationquest.org. Again, that's info@educationquest.org. Email us your addresses. And the winners are Ronnie Myers, RONIMYERS, and Jen Hilgenkamp, HILGENKAMP. So congratulations and thanks for tuning in to watch our presentation. And we're excited that you are going to be the recipients of these awesome hydration bottles. So, and be sure, everybody, we're going to wrap this up, but be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to stay up to date on all the latest. Sign up for Countdown to College, all the things. And you can get all the latest on FAFSA and college planning. And we hope to see everybody right back here on Wednesday, December 6th at 7 p.m. when we are going to get into part 2, how to file. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise, Jackie, and have a great night, everybody.